I'd forgotten how much I loved putting all this together. That's what I hate about what they took away from me. The detection, the puzzle making, and the fourth man. The fourth man. This week on the Comic Book Report, The Planetary Omnibus by Warren Ellis and John Cassaday. Stick around and check it out. Greetings, everyone. As always, my name is Dominic, and you are watching the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. Today, I'll be doing my first omnibus review on Planetary. But first, let's start with some quick facts. Planetary was initially published under the Wildstorm imprint of DC Comics. This edition itself includes Planetary issues 1 through 27, along with the Planetary Batman #1, Planetary JLA #1, and of course the Planetary Authority #1. These issues were initially released between 1999 and 2009, and this omnibus weighs in at 864 pages. And now, before we continue, I want to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the entire collection, and I might be speaking to some plot details. So if you'd like to be surprised or read this for yourself, I just wanted to warn you that there might be spoilers ahead. Now let's get started with our review. Alright, and here's the volume itself. As you can see, it has some beautiful cover art. The artist on this series, John Cassaday, he just has some beautiful, beautiful work. And honestly, you can get a feel for it even from the cover of this omnibus. I really appreciate what DC did under the dust jacket as well. Just some good, solid stuff, and not like a lot of other omnis I have. So I finally picked this collection up from Amazon. I think I got this whole omnibus, which has the entire series, for just over $40. Now, as we get started looking into the omnibus itself, I want to take a second and just briefly touch on how I heard about the series and my context with it as a whole. So, in I think about 2009, so probably pretty shortly after this whole series completed, I had a buddy who, when I was first getting into comics, had the first trade paperback collection of Planetary and loaned it to me. I read the first few issues and I liked it right off the bat, but I just didn't want to dive in at the time. But over the years, I kept thinking about the story I remembered from those first few issues. And sometime later, I discovered Warren Ellis in earnest when I came across the series Transmetropolitan, and that whole series is incredible. It's a cyberpunk, political, gonzo journalistic roller coaster ride that I know I'll have to review on my channel at some point. Anyway, that was my first exposure to Ellis, and he rapidly became one of my favorite authors. And independently of that, around the same time, I also encountered John Cassaday on his work with Joss Whedon on Astonishing X-Men. And while the story in the initial Joss Whedon run on Astonishing X-Men I thought was personally very great, it was the artwork that just took my breath away. Fast forward to a few months ago, and I see this omnibus go across my Amazon recommended books, and I remember my experience reading the first couple issues of that trade all those years ago, and for a price point like this, I thought it was a no-brainer. And boy, I got my money's worth. Alright, and now you might be asking, what on earth is Planetary? Well, frankly, that could be a little bit difficult to describe. But at its core, Planetary is about an agency, known as Planetary, that kind of deals with interdimensional, intergalactic, or supernatural threats of any kind. And while this organization is fairly far-reaching, the main squad that we follow in the series is made up of largely 3 members. The super strong, super fast Jaquita Wagner, the technology-speaking oddity that is the drummer, and of course, the enigmatic amnesiac with ice powers, Elijah Snow. And this team all takes orders from the elusive fourth man. The series begins with Jaquita recruiting Elijah Snow into Planetary, and the adventures really don't stop from then on. The series itself does have a broader, overarching narrative plot that is so satisfying. But I found so much joy in just some of the early cases in this series, where the team investigates things like a ghost wanting revenge, or an island of dead kaiju-like monsters, which really brings me into something else I want to discuss about Planetary. While the stories really revolve around this peacekeeping agency, the series itself can sometimes feel more like a sequence of love letters to some of the best of comic book tropes and literary genres, and even B-movie or monster fandoms. The way that the creative team of Warren Ellis and John Cassaday pay homage to all of these different literary movements and genres and comic book tropes and all of these other pop culture milestones, well, frankly, it's just so deeply satisfying, adding its own sense of levity and joy in the pages of this omnibus. I was surprised to see as well direct homages to characters like James Bond or the Fantastic Four, and references to works like War of the World era sci-fi novels, or turn of the century pulp adventure stories. Planetary just has so much for a fan or student of all of these different cinematic and literary genres and histories. And it added such a deep layering to an already fantastically characterized and plotted main series. And I think it's what makes this series stand out and shine brightest. As you progress further through the omnibus, the main story really begins to take shape and funnel toward its ultimate resolution. Pretty soon, Elijah begins to get his memory back, and we also begin to see who we believe the villainous threat of the whole series will ultimately be. And that's all I'll really say about that, because I genuinely want you to experience Planetary for yourself. For under $50, this omnibus was a no-brainer for me, and I have no doubt I'll return to these pages to read of their adventures over and over again throughout my lifetime. After the 27-issue main series is concluded, this omnibus also includes the crossover one-shot issues with Batman, the Justice League, and one of Warren Ellis's other series, Authority. While all three of these one-shots were such welcome additions to this collection, I loved the Batman one-shot. As a lifelong Batman fan, it was such a playful and unique storyline that has the Planetary team jump into a parallel universe where the Batman is the guardian of Gotham City. Warren Ellis does such a masterful job of distilling the character of Batman down into just his essential essence, and we get to see that play out across this one-shot issue that feels both equal parts Planetary and Batman. This edition closes with some bonus artwork as well as some scripted pages for your viewing pleasure. And while there's so much more I could say about the Planetary Omnibus and this series as a whole, I really do want to leave some left for you to discover on your own. So I think it's time that I go ahead and give this collection a grade. As a great standalone collection filled with dynamic and fun characters across a broad array of fantastical backdrops, The Comic Book Report feels the need to give the Planetary Omnibus an A. I would feel fairly confident recommending this series to just about anyone who enjoys pop culture or literary genres. Warren Ellis is just a master at paying homage, while he deconstructs and plays with all of these comic tropes. Planetary is an unforgettable ride, and if you have the budget for it, I highly recommend. Until next time, thank you for watching The Comic Book Report. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing or watching some of my other videos. Thank you so much. Have a great day.